Hey guys. Okay, so yeah, obviously we need to talk about Shiki in this chapter because the main thing that sticks out almost immediately is just how more emotional volatile he's becoming. And even though he was calmed down for a very brief moment but with Merchun and Couchpo, you can tell this most recent experience is not only weighing on him heavily, but it's also affecting his judgment to the point where you can actually see how the trauma he experienced is consuming him. It's becoming rage, anger, and a rage and anger that's so strong that Couchko had, in very few words, said that Shura has, well, Shura has in some ways succeeded in pushing Shiki to his absolute emotional limit and to the brink of desperation. Like you can actually see that he's like Shiki right now is so desperate in order to get Witch back that by the time he does face Shura again, he'll not only be incapable of restraining himself, but when you really look at Shiki's emotional state, it's no longer just about whether or not he awakens the darkness of Satan gravity to defeat Shura anymore, but what's going to happen if he does. And with that comes a real genuine concern of whether or not Shiki is going to be able to return from the abyss brought on by that experience when it happens. Because the other thing about this is if you really look at this, he's also ignoring pretty much everything Zenith had taught him about the emotional dangers of Satan gravity. And again, even if Shiki does ultimately like manage to regain himself and that sense of who he is by the end of this fight, and by the time everything is all said and done, I think I'm almost certain of it actually that the Prince, when this is all said and done, when he's dipped himself into the darkness of Satan gravity, he will actually end up losing a part of himself to that power and bring himself a little bit closer, just a little closer to where pretty much Ziggy is now. Again, I don't want to believe that, but it's true. And I'm not gonna lie, I think this, and I'm not gonna lie, I think this chapter really kind of reinforced something for me I hadn't thought about before, just pretty much how much Witch herself is kind of the heart of the Eden Zero crew. Like if you really look at, if you really examine Witch's role in the whole thing, she's basically a pretty much mother figure to everyone. And I think even to a certain degree, even though he never explicitly states it or something, I think that's kind of how pretty much Shiki views, pretty much people like Shiki, Rebecca, and Weiss kind of view like Witch. Like Witch has this kind of like motherly affection to her that has kept everyone kind and hopeful. And I think that in a way also was kind of like a driving force of of why Shiki is so angry. Well, pretty much because of Witch's character and who she's proven to be. Like Witch is the mother figure of the Eden Zero crew. As weird as that sounds, I've kind of, it's only now I'm kind of realizing that. But yeah, Witch is kind of like everyone's mother, and I really appreciate just how kind but also stern she is. It's kind of one of those things that I really appreciate about her character now that I look at it. But with that said, I guess we may as well talk about, again, since I just talked about Witch, we may as well talk about the scene between Witch and Shura, with the major thing to get out of that, aside from reinforcing how much of a creepy sadistic freak Shura is that the reason he started all this and his whole war with machines and Ziggy is because of what happened on Foresta and how Ziggy had taken over dominion of the planet. Like, to pretty much Shura, it was basically tantamount to pretty much war because Foresta is part of the Aoi cosmos, which is what Shura rules over. So to him, it was an offense to his role, which is one of those reveals to me that really should make me hate how much of a self-entitled little prick Shura can be. But honestly, listening to him talk about how everything he's doing is really just a response to Ziggy's takeover of Foresta is in a lot of ways indicative of how much Shura is being played. Like, he thinks everything he's doing, every action he takes throughout this arc, he thinks, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what he's doing is he is trapping Ziggy. But when you get down to it, the moment Shura laid all this in motion as a response to Ziggy, that's the moment he fell into Ziggy's trap. In fact, there is kind of a, when you really look at this, there's kind of a weird tragedy now when you realize how this has to end for Shura. Like, and that, like, the destiny that Nero had foretold with his dice was more than likely Shura's demise. Like, it's going to, like, it's one of those things where it has to, like, pretty much Shura has to pretty much fall at the hand of Ziggy. Whether he lives, dies, whatever, he's pretty much going to fail. And in that sense, it's like it's a weird kind of situation where obviously we hate Shura, but we're slowly seeing the descent of what's going to lead him to absolute failure at the same time. It's really kind of cathartic and weird in that sense. With that said, we get Weiss and Rebecca. Weiss and Rebecca encounter another member of the Ocean Six, and whose name is NASA. Nase, I think is his name. I don't know. And yeah, just the fact that he's a psychic hypnotist kind of character already makes him way more of a problem than already makes him infinitely more of a problem than pretty much Milani was, and probably a lot less likely to sway. Because, yeah, on top of his terrifying introduction, we also get a formal introduction to another Ocean 6 member, Lyra, which, yeah, first impression of this new generation of the Ocean 6, as they put it, is that they're a group of certified sociopaths and psychopaths. So, yeah, right now, Mashima has got my adrenaline and fear pumping right now with these new characters. Or, I mean, I guess there were characters that were introduced before at the beginning of this arc, but yeah, he's got me fearful of them right now. But with Shiki on his way as well, I'm hoping it's not a situation where Rebecca and Weiss end up completely outmatched, only for Shiki to arrive and one-two punch Nase. I mean, Mashima has gained my trust with this series, where I don't believe he'd do that, and will give like Rebecca and Weiss their moment in this fight. But at the same time, Shiki has been pushed so far to the point of desperation, so he could just as easily have Shiki swoop in to save them. The latter of which, again, I'm hoping doesn't happen, but I'd understand if Mashima did decide to do that. And yeah, let's talk about Lyra, and what an odd emotional crossroads I find myself at with her. Because on one hand, her powers look threatening, and if I had to guess just based on what happened at the end of the chapter, it appears she might have a similar power to like Gamble from the X-Men, where she can manipulate her cards, but based on what she says, rather than controlling the cards themselves, she can control people through her cards or something like that. Like it's the only thing I can translate as with the new generation of Ocean 6 being able to like manipulate people's ether. That's kind of the thing I'm thinking of as to what her ability is. So yeah, her power is pretty cool. Her character design, however, I hate with a passion. And maybe it's just because I turned 30 last month and I'm generally getting older, but Lyra's design feels like everything wrong with my generation and the generation younger than me distilled into a single character. Again, like her powers, but hopefully the attitude we see from Lyra in this isn't going to stick around. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst, Crunchyroll, and be sure to hit the notification bell, the notification button for notifications, and just just be sure to pretty much share this around as well, guys. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.